coming through your headphones?
No.
No way.
What is it coming through?
Hang on.
Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. What's the news today? Have a drink, have your say. All opinions here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay. Weddy, GA, and Matt are here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Come and have your say.
I was asked an interesting question the other day, a simple question actually, as it would have to be for me. Now the question was, why do you watch Speedway? It got me thinking a little bit, always a dangerous thing for me. There are many reasons not to like Speedway, I know this, because people on different forums are quick to point them out over and over and over again. Now, I know why I watch Speedway. It's for those rare moments when a rider pulls off a manoeuvre that just takes your breath away. It's because of the people I've met and still have to meet along the way. It's because of the accessibility to the riders and just so many more things. It's for all of those reasons really and more. But I have to ask all of those previously mentioned people that like to criticise Speedway, that never have a good word to say about Speedway, if it's so bad, why do you watch it? Only in Speedway. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I've lost the power of... Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern, sponsored by So-Called Studios. I've got it 3 days on the trot now. Yeah. How are we doing, gentlemen?
All good.
All good, yep.
We have in the studio, as always, Matt and Chris. Yeah, do you get fed up with these naysayers sometimes? Sometimes there are things about Speedway that are to criticise, but...
Yeah, sometimes some of them are legitimate, sometimes it's just little picky little things, aren't they, really, that...
I think sometimes we all have to think about, well, why do I watch it?
Yeah, it's when they repeat them, isn't it? It's always still got a feeling of the louder I shout, the righter I am, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to ask that question of all of our listeners, well, all one of them probably. Yeah, why do you watch Speedway? Okay. Well, we've already got an answer, actually. Reginald Barker says, how long do you think the National League will last? Oh, dear. That's a good start. Fen Tiger's coming back next season, but not in National League. I love Speedway because bikes, banter, beers, family feeling, etc., I'm guessing.
Yeah. National League is a worry at the moment.
Well, we have mentioned this before.
It seems at the moment to be a league that doesn't really know what it wants to be.
I think we'll end up having a situation. I think this is where Phil Morris is possibly looking of all the teams in the Premier League will have to field a second National League type team. And wouldn't surprise me if that comes. It won't be the National League as we know it, but it will be something.
Yeah.
And obviously, I would imagine they would also allow in standalone teams.
Quite similar to what we used to have in the late 80s, early 90s, I think. It was something very similar where you'd have the senior match and then you'd have the two teams have a junior meeting and they'd obviously race each other in the second meeting. So,
David Albrighton says because he likes the action and the smell of the methanol.
Yeah, you don't really get the smell of the methanol now, though, do you? Because obviously with the change of the...
As I understand it, it's not actually the methanol that you get. It was the old Castrol GTX.
Castrol, which was an amazing smell, wasn't it? You'd walk into the stadium for the press and practice on the opening day of the season, and you get great waft of it up your nose, and it would you hadn't smelt it since the previous October. And it was,
yeah.
You think, yes, it's back.
Yeah.
They really should try and do something about getting that back because it always was an important part of Speedway. Pete Clark, I love Speedway because the drugs don't work. And Jeff Daniels says the sound's a little low. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Somebody just said it was too high.
Okay.
Can't be.
Yeah.
There we go. Try that now.
The National League is now almost what the MDL was 7 to 8 years ago. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, all the leagues are pretty much at rock bottom as far as numbers are concerned. We need to address that. I mean, there's been some positive things this year with obviously Oxford in all 3 leagues, and we got Workington doing
Workington do exceptionally well.
Exceptionally well. So that's but there are worries as well.
I mean, the situation at Birmingham really is it 2 matches in. It seems to be like 2 matches in the space of 2 months. There's no continuity.
No
at all.
continuity.
Yeah.
Really, really looking forward to next week's match against King's Lynn. I think
Which
could
is
be
going
a
to be, which
cracker.
now looks an interesting one because
Yeah.
King's Lynn were exceptional last night, weren't they? Really against Oxford. Oxford had a lot of problems with riders or mechanical failures and things like that, but King's Lynn.
They looked good.
They look good. Whether it's there's still time for them to put in a charge to get into the top 4, I'm not completely convinced. But if they can have a positive end to the season, then that hopefully bodes well for them. Slightly concerned, obviously, looking around the stadium and seeing that the crowd, it did seem to be a very minimal crowd again.
King's Lynn, yeah.
King's Lynn, that's one thing that they desperately, they certainly need to get more, and their promotion have said this as well, they need to get more fans through the gates, but at the same time, if they can get a winning team together, that'll hopefully help as well.
Yeah. Some people have said Speedway is boring as it's just 4 bikes going round in circles. Sometimes it is, yes, but to me, I've been brought up on it. It's for me a sport that you can see all the action just a couple of feet from where you're sat. It's pretty much the only motorsport I think that's true of.
That's right.
The adrenaline of watching a rider squeeze right up against the fence to make a pass at high speed. The skill of riders who put their leg over the bike. There's no other sport like it. We love it. Yes, we do. Right, so we thought we'd do something a little bit different today, and we will be talking about the GPs as well.
Yeah.
It may not continue like this because you guys sometimes have other ideas about what you want us to talk about, which is great, by the way. But we thought we'd start off in the Premier League and go through each one of the teams and have a little chat about how their season's going, and perhaps highlight a good and bad rider, sort of. I've really phrased that badly, but you know what I mean. A rider that's done better than expected and a rider that perhaps
really,
hasn't.
yeah.
There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. There we go. So, shall we just go down the Premier League?
Let's start off then with Ipswich, of course, top of the Premiership at the moment, 21 points from 11 meetings. Doing very well, and of course they've obviously been decimated by injuries in recent weeks. But I think they're living up to their status as one of the pre-season favourites.
They've been pre-season favourites for a few years in this league.
Last season obviously was the closest they've come. They sort of had a good lead in the first leg at Vauxhall and then blew it at Sheffield in the second leg amazingly, which nobody could see coming.
It was a great advert for the sport. Over the 2 legs, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's I can't see any at the moment. You can't really see anybody going to Ipswich and winning at Vauxhall Heath. But away from home as well, they've picked up wins at. They've got a draw at King's Lynn. They've won at Leicester. They've won at Oxford, and they've won at Sheffield as well. So
I mean, the big problem for them is.
Can they keep?
You can't replace Jason Dorr, can you? There is nobody. I mean, he was. I'm pretty sure he's top of the averages, which is a good thing because then they can, as far as guests are concerned, they've got the pick of who's available. But
it's quite possible that had Birmingham not moved when they did, Freddie Lindgren might have got the call from the Ipswich promotion to possibly go there and form what would have been an equally strong spearhead.
You mean for once we got there first?
Yeah. Right place at the right time. I think that was just the way it goes. Isn't it, unfortunately, and that's been unfortunately Birmingham's problem. They've been in the right place, but at the wrong time. So I suppose it's good for them to get that bit of luck on that side of it.
I mean, I suppose they need to be looking at people like, I suppose, Mickelson wouldn't be a bad call.
Yeah,
and people like that. So I mean, as far as riders that have done better than expected, is there anybody left?
Thompson's done well, hasn't he?
He's done well. Yes.
Jason Doyle, obviously, I think Jason Doyle was on for a really, really
Positives,
out
yeah,
season
great
before
season,
the
yeah.
injury. Kenyon Rue has sort of had a bit of a difficult first season, but I think he's been better in the second half of the season. If you'd have asked me this a few weeks ago, ridiculous as it sounds, I probably would have said Elmside Foods because he had a bit of a slow start to the season, and his form was a little bit patchy.
He's still getting beaten sometimes by riders that you wouldn't expect him to be getting
but I mean,
beaten
you
by.
can say certainly in the two performances against Birmingham that his best form surely can't be too far away. I mean, certainly in the first meeting he was absolutely outstanding.
Possibly a rider that hasn't done as well as people maybe would have expected would be Danny King.
Injuries have probably affected his season, haven't they? Unfortunately for him, which hasn't helped.
Hasn't helped. But
Adam Ellis maybe as well. I thought, obviously he had a really poor season with Sheffield last year. Of course, lost his place in the end before the playoffs and got the pick to go back to Ipswich where he'd had a spell previously. He's maybe been a little bit up and down as well, I think.
But by and large, they're where they want to be. Can they keep this going with the injury? They need to replace him.
I think
don't they?
they're going to have to make a change at some point to bring somebody in. You can't go through the rest of the season with RR and guests because in the end it's going to catch up with them. So I think
you would have put them on as tied-on favourites, wouldn't you? But now it's possibly not.
Not
it
quite.
just depends.
I guess it depends on who they bring in as a replacement.
Yeah. Fred Graham, I've watched Speedway since 1969. I loved the smell, but mainly the thrill and skill of the riders was amazing. The sport is missing characters. I think that's true. And the sport needs to make more of the ones we have. Love it.
I think Phil Lanning said that when he was on the show a few weeks ago, didn't he? Certainly, particularly in the case of Ty Woodman. So,
I mean, as far as characters are concerned, we live in a totally different situation these days with the whole cancel culture thing, and I can understand why the BSPL would be a little bit wary of that. But I do think that we're missing those characters.
You want someone who creates headlines, though.
I mean, you look at Ty Woffington, he said a few naughty words, and everybody's gone mental against him. Anyway. Dave Twine said
these people have probably heard naughty words before. So
I haven't.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I can tell Birmingham City. There's two.
What's your nose on the controls, Mr. Brown?
Magic last night. From Dave Twine. I presume he's talking about for ride of the week. So we need to think about that as well.
Okay.
Okay, well, shall we talk about since Dave Twine's brought it up, Muslek 28 days, wow. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had to do something.
Well, they did, because you got a situation where a rider says he's not fit enough to race
in one league
in the UK, but he's racing abroad.
Yeah.
And then saying that it's the suggestion that it's down to the technical tracks. Well, it's not as, that would probably maybe have more work in it if he'd never ridden in this country before, but he's got 5 or 6 years worth of experience now and has been an outstanding rider for Sheffield in the last few seasons as well, and has done well on tracks that you wouldn't have certainly put in, but traditionally speaking the Poles haven't tended to do that well on. So I think a statement had to be made really there that you can't just keep doing this and sort of missing meetings for one club but then all of a sudden miraculously turning up to race for your club in Poland.
I mean, should he actually be allowed back in this year?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know as well whether things are going on in Poland with his Polish club as well, whether his Polish club are putting pressure on him to not race in the UK. I think this is probably to an extent what happened with Nicky Pedersen last season when he came back to race for Peterborough. We'll talk about Peterborough shortly as well.
Gosh, we've got to pack a lot in tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we go to second in the league?
Second in the league at the moment, of course, are the defending champions, Sheffield Tigers, on 17 points from 4 matches. And again, obviously that one defeat at home against Ipswich, but they've been pretty comfortable in all of their home meetings so far. And so far on the road, they've picked up wins at Bellevue. They've got a draw at Birmingham, which seems ages ago on that opening night of the season, doesn't it? They've won at Leicester, but obviously beaten at Oxford and Ipswich as well.
I mean, they must be sort of rubbing their hands together a little bit at the Ipswich situation, thinking, yeah, you know, this is last year all over again for us. We've got a good chance here.
I think so, yeah.
Who's the rider that sort of outperformed, would you say?
Well, not necessarily outperformed, but is completely in contravention to his form in the GPs, and that's Ty Woofington. He's been superb for Sheffield so far, hasn't he?
He has.
Was outstanding after a bad first ride on the opening night at Birmingham, on a track that I think in the past he has privately said that it's not
his favourite tracks. Yeah.
Certainly rode very, very well, and it seems a bit strange that he's getting it together in the league, but he can't get it together in the GP. So that is something that's a little bit,
because he's still coming up against class riders in this league now. Okay, so that's an underperformance, really.
in one sense, yeah.
I mean, I GPs, but an overperformance. So yeah, I see what you're saying there. And somebody in there, I mean, they're pretty solid all the way through, aren't they? Is there anybody there that's possibly?
You look at their average so far this season. Ty Woofington 9.31, Jack Holden 9.30. Chris Holder's probably done better than I thought he would have done as well. 8.44. Josh Pickering 6.43, Carl Howarth 6.23, Jason Edwards 4, Dan Jilks 3.89. So you can't. There's not really a weak link in the moment in that Sheffield team at the moment, and you feel that at the end of the season
so we've got to the second team, and already our little contrived formula has fallen apart. Okay, we've got a few more comments come up as well. So Bilbo and Boots. Hello, Bilbo and Boots. This is on YouTube, I believe. Oxford versus Kings Lynn. Was the back wheel in or out? It was out. It was over the line, wasn't it? It was in.
It's difficult to say, really, because there isn't a white line in a sense at Kings Lynn, is there? You know, and obviously when the bike goes over the line, on the camera angle at the back, all you can see is the dust.
Yeah.
All the dust and all the dirt coming up. So it was difficult to see, really.
Personally, I think he went over the line.
Me and my dad had a bit of a discussion about this after the meet there. He thought he didn't think he did, but I thought it went over it just went over the line. Not by much.
I mean, I go all the way back to Egan Mullen, and I think he went over the line as well. But that's
another story.
Okay, and Simon Corbett says Kurt should be getting 28 days if he doesn't ride at Sheffield. Rode in Poland on Sunday. I think
that's right. I think if you otherwise Kings Lynn are going to be going down the route of it's one rule for them, one rule for another team. You know, you've got to be fair.
That's going to be an interesting one to see.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've had situations where a rider's gone, yeah, I did ride on Sunday, but I pulled the muscle again and it's really gone bad again. Which, Mujlak didn't say. He went, he said what he said, which is possibly more honest. I don't know. Duncan Pemberton, last night Bowen's two wheels clearly went over the line. Tatum and company made a big deal of it. Cameras cut to pits where clearly discussion was happening. He's got to go, said Tatum. The ad break and not mentioned after that. Yeah, I noticed that. Obviously, ref not interested in Eurosport coverage, but watching casual fans be wondering what was going on. Yes, I can't. Think so, yeah. I can't disagree with any of that.
Yeah, it did. I mean, there was a big deal of it made, and then all of a sudden,
nothing.
Just forgotten about, wasn't it? So almost as if just sweep it under the carpet. They won't notice. Yeah,
massive discussions going on, and at one point Phil Morris covering up his mic, so he couldn't hear, and interesting. Yeah. Okay, third in the league is
the Bellevue Aces on 11 after 11 matches. They've got 17 points, and again another team that has been pretty solid so far, certainly at home. Were run a bit closer than anybody expected by Kingston, and of course lost that controversial meeting against Sheffield. But again, no away wins so far, which sort of plays into the way that I thought their season would go when we did the predictions at the start of the season, because I thought away from home would be their Achilles heel. And
just go through the lineup for us.
Okay, so at the moment their lineup: Brady Kurtz, Dan Bewley, Joy Lidsey, Ben Cook, Norrie Dawn, Connor Mountain and Connor Bailey.
Okay, so for me, the rider there, that's I know it's immediately gone out of my head. that's performing really well, greater than expected. I'm going to let you go because it's just gone out of my head.
Well, in terms of underperforming, I'd probably say Joy Lidser. He started the season on average of 772. It's 692, so he's lost nearly a point on his average. So he's been a little bit disappointing so far. Maybe you could say if you were being ultra harsh. Dan Bewley's been a bit, as he was last season, hasn't been quite as the dominant force that a lot of people assumed he was going to be when he came back to race in the UK for Bellevue as well.
That might change after becoming British champion. That might well give him. They have won by the way. Won at
yes.
Yes, by Jeff Daniels is.
Put me right.
Put you right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, they're going to be
also lost by 2 at Oxford, so they haven't been completely rubbish away from home, but they haven't won as many matches as I think they need to. I've always felt if you're going to be in the playoffs that you've got to win away from home as well as winning at home.
So for a team like Birmingham, and you've got to say Kings Lynn now, who have strengthened, and they're looking at trying to sneak in that last 4th place.
Yeah.
Bellevue's away form's got to be of interest.
Well, if you look at have a look at the home averages so far, you've got Brady Kurtz and Dan Bewley who've averaged over 10 points a meeting at home. Away, Kurtz is averaging 880 and Dan Bewley 784. There's just too much. It's classic case really of they've got a long tail and it wags.
And there's this
Bellevue,
sort of Brady Kurtz situation hanging over their head as well.
That's not really helping, is it? He's a class act Brady Kurtz. I think he's their best rider.
Yeah.
Personally, I rate him as a better rider than Dan Bewley personally, but that's
okay. We've got a Mr. Buck.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, relation. Not 100% sure that Bowen's rear wheel was over the line. Remember, it has to be the whole of the wheel and the whole of the line. But as the white line at Kings Lynn just seems to be a painted line, it isn't too difficult to slip over it. Maybe there should be some rule about what constitutes a white line.
Do the track stuff happen? I mean, obviously you stand on the first bend at Perry Bar. Are the track stuff giving any instructions as to watch to see if...
No, but we're not officials.
Or do you just not bother to look? So?
We're not officials. I'll tell you a little story about Mr. Martin Smolinski.
Yeah.
Bless his cotton socks. When he was riding for Birmingham, whenever he used to have this great cut, basically with the Lindgren corridor, the Carlson corridor, I should say.
Yeah.
But he would cut it really fine, and the guy on the flag there would always, when Martin Smolinski was racing,
run for cover.
He would just take a few little steps extra back infield. Because I think Martin Smolinski had worked out that so the centre green at Perry Bar is a bit sort of a dome situation, and I'm pretty sure the referee can't actually see the right line at the corner of bends 2. Because Martin Smolinski would regularly go on both wheels. But anyway, it's just Aces have won all bonus points so far. I think that will change at Sheffield on Thursday. So
I think it's going to be crucial as well for teams to get as many of these bonus points as they can. It's going to be difficult for Bellevue to get to turn over to a 10-point deficit at Sheffield though from the first meeting.
Okay, next up
are Oxford Spires, who got 13 points from 12 matches.
Very positive start for them.
Very positive start. They certainly weren't at the best last night.
No.
Biggest disappointment probably up until last night was probably Magic Janowski. So he hadn't started off well at all. Of course, riding down at number 4 in their team. That's he hadn't. Although he looked a lot better, of course, benefited from the fact that he's obviously raced at Kings Lynn several years ago.
And it's a Polish sort of track in many ways.
Obviously, I think Nikolai Clint obviously left after 4 matches. He had not had a brilliant start.
And then did really well for Kings Lynn last night.
Knows the track now, doesn't he? I would say the biggest surprise for me is probably Rowan Tungate. I was quite surprised actually at how well that he's performed so far this season.
On fire, yeah.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't ridden in the UK since about 2019, I think. Came back to the UK this year. I think people thought, well, he's been away from it. Is he going to be quite the? He's probably better. He's probably riding better now than he ever
I would
when
say
he was
so.
riding for Swinton.
Yeah, I would say so. He had a few bits of bad luck with his primary chain.
Yeah,
last night.
well, one extraordinary, of course, where he failed just as he was going over the line.
Yeah.
You know, if that had been a few metres back, then he may well have been caught as well. So, but you know, Chris Harris averaging 669 at the moment. You know, bomber's bomber, isn't he? You know, he's always going to have that little bit of bite in the middle of the field. Craig Cook's obviously come in. He's done well, 716. So I think Oxford going along quite nicely have settled into the
Anybody there
top
that
flight.
surprised you for perhaps not doing as well as you would expect
I'd say
them to?
Magic Janowski. I thought he would be. I know he's not had a great couple of seasons in the GPs, but I thought coming back to the UK would give him a real boost. But
Maybe
like I said, maybe
last night will be
I think so. Yeah. Well, there's been I think there's been other glimpses in other meetings as well that he's ridden in the last few weeks, so that maybe he's starting to get his.
He's a
form
class
back.
act.
But again, Oxford, another one of these clubs that don't really seem to have any home track advantage when you look at their results. They've had 46. They've had a couple of 46-44s. They've had 3 47-43s. And of course, they've been beaten by Ipswich 42-48. So
I mean, a lot of that might well be down to the fact that it's a new track for the home riders as well.
yeah, that's it. I mean, obviously they've won at Birmingham. That's been their only away win so far. They were 6 points. They got to within 6 points at Ipswich, but of course that meeting was abandoned. But there was only one heat to go, so they'd lost that one. So they did well there. Kingston, they lost by 10, of course, last night, but they've had a couple of heavy defeats at Bellevue and
So
Leicester.
although they're in the top four, there is a certain fragility about them, I think.
A little bit, yeah. I think possibly they're maybe vulnerable at home. But obviously a lot of these clubs, of course, are going to be going back for a second time to Oxford in the next few weeks, aren't they? So they'll know the track now. But again, the Oxford riders are getting to know the track as well. I think there's only Chris Harris that would have ridden at Oxford before it closed, but I think the track shows has changed
hasn't
from
it?
when it was then.
So, okay. Next up is...
Next up is there's a bit of a gap. Next up we missed Leicester off. Leicester
Okay.
12 from 10 matches.
possibly underperforming as a team.
Yeah, I thought this about Leicester last season as well. I mean, to be fair, you looked at their team last season; they looked pretty much shoo-ins, didn't they, for the playoffs for most of the season, and then made
whoops.
a load of changes and just completely capitulated.
I mean, they
in
had the
final
same
match
problem as
at,
Birmingham had, didn't they, with that one particular rider?
Yeah.
Which I think upset the apple cart for them a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Max Frick, obviously being the number one, was outstanding on Saturday in the Grand Prix.
wasn't it? Yeah.
He was brilliant at that. You know, I read somewhere on one of the forums that they said that Max Frick is having a very similar season to what Hans Andersen had in 2006 when he missed out on the Grand Prix, getting back into it, and then had I think came in midway through the season as a replacement for an injured rider and was brilliant for the second half of the season. And had he been in the season all the way through, Mark was probably at his peak at that point in his career.
Well, he did look really on the gas.
Yep.
And actually, Max, while we're talking about Max Frick, is actually going to be my rider of the week.
And on that subject, get your rider of the week in. There we go.
Okay.
Have a think about it.
Yep. So, but if you look at the again, solid all the way through. You know, Max Frick 911, Ryan Douglas 809, Richard Lawson 781, Sam Masters 733, Craig Cook 7. Sam Masters maybe not done quite as well as I was expecting him to. I did hear some talk a few weeks ago that there was potentially going to be Leicester were going to replace him.
Right.
Although that doesn't seem to have come to anything. Luke Becker as well hasn't really sort of...
He started off really well, didn't he?
Started off well, but you know, it's sort of opposite to what he did for Wolves last season. He started off... Well, he missed the first few weeks of the season because of injury, but started off slowly and then got better as the season went on and built up momentum. It's been sort of the other way around for Luke.
So, I mean, from the sounds of it, Leicester, there are rumblings and stuff at Leicester with the possibility of changes.
Well, you know full well with Stuart Dixon there, he's not afraid to make changes.
No.
Although he'll be mindful of the fact that he did that last season, and they ended up losing out on the top four, didn't they? So.
Am I really going to read out this comment by Duncan Pemberton?
Go for it.
Tongue out losing 2 chains must be a common link somewhere.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
It's like one of Chris's jokes, that is.
I was looking for the tumbleweed. I don't think so. One.
So yeah, I mean, again, there's a fragility there.
A little bit. They've got a home track advantage. It's although they have actually been beaten at home this season by Sheffield, but and also Ipswich as well. So the top 2 have gone there and won. But I mean, obviously Birmingham have been there and lost heavily. Bellevue went there and lost heavily as well, and Oxford as well. Kings Lynn got to within 5 points of them, so they did well there.
Yeah. Yeah, Kings Lynn have had a couple of, like Birmingham as well. We've had a couple of, shall we say, surprising results where we've taken teams close for 2/3 of a match.
Yeah.
But
okay.
So
Birmingham are next on in the list, of course, 6 points from 11 matches so far.
Well, where do we start? Ryder. I mean, let's actually start with the rider that's possible. It's very obvious the rider is underperformed. You have a rider that goes from number 1 to reserve.
Still not performing even at reserve, so.
Yeah, which is Peter Pavlichki.
I would say Leon Flint as well hasn't delivered to the level I thought he would do. I thought going back to...
He's had the odd good meeting.
Yeah.
He had the, right at the beginning of the season, he looked, I thought, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, Anthony Bayliss has thought Birmingham signed the best rising star, but so far he hasn't really performed like it yet. But there is still time, so would go down as my most underperforming Brummie. Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt who's been the rider of the season so far for Birmingham. Though it's got to be Tom Brennan.
Tom Brennan,
been
without,
superb so far.
Yeah.
Steve Worrell has a slow start, but he's obviously...
He seems to be picking up a pace now.
Victor Lambert is again another one who's got better as the season's gone on.
It's actually quite a positive position when you then add Freddie Lindgren to that sort of mix.
Can't help thinking that there is going to be more changes made by Birmingham as well.
You reckon?
Yeah.
They need to make them sooner rather than later. If
they want to get in, personally, I think the top 4 might just be a bit too much beyond them now. But if they want to get any chance of getting there, and they're probably going to have to make a change fairly quickly. And I think it's pretty clear who's the rider that's looking most vulnerable at the moment.
I should put this out, so this is a good shout. A good shout to Swedish GP track staff at the start. Could have played mud pies and he's disappeared. There you go. To get a meeting on was a good effort. The racing was cracking. Yeah,
phenomenal effort from the staff at Malella.
Mr. Brombuck says Jankovic made an impressive debut for Kings Lynn last night, but the outstanding rider on view was Magic Janevsky.
Yeah, Kovac looked really good, didn't he? Looked very, very fast when he got in front. So again, that
went round Bomber.
Yeah, it's usually the other way around.
Did
a bomber on Bomber.
Yeah, so which was impressive. So I mean, it's not a bad team now, is it?
Yeah.
Really. A lot hinges on Pavlichki. He's got to get going, hasn't he? I mean, he's got to make hay while he's at reserve.
Yeah. You would think having him at reserve, you should be rubbing your hands together, shouldn't you? Thinking, this bloke's going to get an absolute bucket load of points, but he hasn't done it yet, has he? So.
No. So I think the next meeting against Kings Lynn, we've said it every year, that every meeting this year, I think, must win.
Must win, yep. The home form's been good recently for Birmingham, though, hasn't it? I mean, they've obviously got those... there's only really the Leicester match where they've been completely outclassed so far at home. I mean, there was a decent effort against Oxford, but I think they were just a bit too strong. But obviously the wins against Ipswich and in particular Bellevue were very impressive, and that's going to be key for Birmingham. I think in the second half of the season, they can't afford to lose any more home matches. Pick up anything on the road, it's a bonus.
Absolutely.
But you can't be losing home matches.
Yeah.
Like.
And we'll move to Kings Lynn.
Yes, of course. So Kings Lynn, obviously with that 2-point deduction as well, 4 points from 9 matches. But there have been signs in recent weeks that they're starting to click. Obviously they've got a draw against Ipswich. They've beaten Oxford, and away from home. They've not. You've had 47-43 against Oxford. They've lost by 5 at Leicester. They lost by 6 at Bellevue. There's only really Sheffield so far and Ipswich that have turned them over away from home.
But like Birmingham, home.
Got to get results at home.
Yeah, got to. I mean, you've almost got a little mini league going on now.
Yeah.
Between Birmingham and Kings Lynn, in a sense. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question that Birmingham and or Kings Lynn could make the playoffs. Very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
Very, very unlikely. But it's not out the question yet.
It'll be a huge boost for both of those clubs.
But those two clubs are going to be, both of them are going to be looking at each other's results and going, we ain't going to finish last.
Yeah.
We ain't going to finish last. So that could be an interesting little.
Yeah, the wooden spoon in the top league seems to be owned by Kings Lynn in recent seasons, isn't it? So
I'm quite happy for them to keep
they're
it.
They're going to want to make sure that doesn't remain the case this season as well. But Birmingham, of course, obviously Birmingham have had some tough seasons in the Championship, so they're going to want to, after making the move up into the top league. But I think there's signs at the moment for both teams that better times might not be too far away, but have they sort of let the rest of the league get too far ahead of them at this stage?
I think we need somebody to drop the ball in front of us. The possibility of Oxford doing that.
Leicester,
maybe. Leicester, those are the two.
They're the only ones really at the moment that you can see. I think the top 3 at the moment are pretty much set in stone down the Ipswich, Sheffield and Bellevue.
That's a good call by Anthony Bailey. Rider of the week, Bartosz. I think 5 points from his 2 rides from Gate 4 Saturday took some doing.
Unbelievable ride in the semi-final as well,
wasn't it? Wasn't it? Yeah. Back to his imperial best, I think. Imperious best, I should say.
Yeah. 86 points now from the opening 5 rounds of the GP. Robert Lambert's in second on 69, Jack Holder 68, Michael Mickelson 59. So already a sizable gap that's beginning to build now between Smarslick and the rest of the field. Is he going to, be the man that finally emulates Ivan Major and wins 3 World Championships in a row? It's beginning to look quite ominous at the moment. Obviously, will put himself on 5 World Championships, which would be just behind Major and Rickardsson. So it's good to see.
And done it in fairly short order as well.
Yeah, good. It was good to see Ove Fund in there as well. Jonas, obviously, he was interviewed before the meeting, looking very well. Obviously, still very passionate about Speedway. So that was good to see. Obviously, an icon of Swedish Speedway and indeed World Speedway as well. So, and I believe now the oldest living world champion. So it's good to see him still there and still seemingly as
Where did you get that piece of information from? Google is your friend.
I've got a book at home. It's all in that.
Okay. Is anybody here surprised that you can read? Okay, right.
I surprised myself, actually.
Brian Buck says Kings Lynn did look to have a decent team last night, so it's a mystery as to why they have had a poor start to the season. But I wouldn't underestimate them next Monday. I don't think anybody's going to underestimate them. Their supporters say that Basso and Wadley keep getting in each other's way, and Seymour.
Oh, sorry.
And it's just the way, and need to be separated. Okay. Couldn't possibly comment on that, but yeah. I mean, I think they're both riders that like to get out in the dirt, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
not always a good idea to put 2 riders in.
I think it's going to be a great meeting. I think it's going to be a really good meeting.
It looked a bit of a
Birmingham
Kingsley. A few weeks ago, you looked at that meeting and thought, don't really fancy that, but it's got the potential to be.
I think it's going to be both teams are going to be well up for it, and obviously the home debut of Freddie Lindgren's going to hopefully bring a few supporters in.
Especially from across the other side of the Black Country. So.
I think that's going to be a great meeting. I think that's going to be a good one. Should be on the tally.
But it's not, of course. It's Bellevue Leicester, I think, is the team.
Bellevue Leicester,
Monday, so.
yeah. So they'll probably put bits of it on, as they did before. Okay, I guess we should probably start looking at the league. Prediction League, absolutely.
Yeah, we've still got a few other bits as well that we want to. We obviously we're going to do all three leagues, but I think it's going to be. So what we'll do, we'll look at the Championship next week. I think.
We won't be looking at the Championship next week because we won't be here next week.
No, I'm away next week. Back the week after.
Right.
So there you go.
Week after then, so Championship fans, you can.
Right then, do you really want to have a look at this, Michael?
Just this, I just had a bit of a hiatus. That's all.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit small, but
didn't have too many fixtures, of course.
I get no complaints.
I'll move it. That's all that really matters, really. Oh, look at me.
Yeah, you're 1 point in front of me. Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
There you go.
We've got at the top Simon Corbett, and we've got Matt Book, Brian Book, Rich Thomas, Dave Twine, Gordon Gambrell, Elliot Hunt, Andrew Green, Kev Gully. I'm going to keep going until I get to me, okay, and then we'll stop. Kev Lilly, Andrew Garner, Duncan Pemberton, Philip Gray, and Chris Brown. There we go.
Okay, now before we sort of get into the nitty gritty of this, obviously we've got the British GP not too far away.
Yeah.
And we will use that in the Prediction League.
Yeah, we do anyway, don't we? So we will.
But we should use it as a tiebreaker.
You sure? Because I've already got the tiebreaker with the number of correct scores.
Have we got a tiebreaker?
Okay. I'll use that as the.
Okay. It could be a second tiebreaker in case that's the same as well. Then
this has all been carefully thought out.
That's it.
Well, I wouldn't say carefully, but
okay, thrown together.
Brian Reeson says Danny King made a good comeback after his hand injury.
Yeah.
And Fred Graham says hopefully Discovery Plus will show all the heats from Birmingham like they did previously. Customers will get 2 meetings for the price of 1. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, so let's rattle through the this week's fixtures then.
Okie dokie.
And let's start off.
I believe it's Chris's.
In the Championship, Oxford against Poole tomorrow night.
Yeah, Oxford versus Poole. Okay, I might go for. Oxford. No, I'm not going to. No, I'm going to go for Poole by 4.
Okay.
I ain't got a clue, really.
I'm going to go for a draw.
Oh, not far off then.
Oxford by 4, I'll go for.
So it's all one heat, isn't it?
Okay. Right, on Thursday night in the Premiership, it's Ipswich against Leicester.
That's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to say Ipswich by 10.
I'll see Ipswich by 10 as well.
Ipswich by 6.
Okay, then. Also on Thursday, the War of the Roses, Sheffield against Bellevue.
And that's up to you, Matt.
Sheffield by 12.
Sheffield by 8.
Sheffield by 10.
Okay. And then on Friday in the Championship, it's Glasgow against Berwick.
Interesting. And that's up to you, Chris.
Glasgow by 4.
Glasgow by 12.
Glasgow by 16. Okay, also on Friday in the Championship, it's Edinburgh against Scunthorpe.
That's up to me. Edinburgh by 10. Headingborough, yes. Oh, okay. Heading to Headingborough.
It's posh.
Scunthorpe by 4.
I did think you was going to do that.
Scunthorpe by 6.
Okay.
Okay, on Saturday afternoon, it's Workington against Scunthorpe.
Up to you, Matt.
Workington by 2.
Workington by 8.
Scunthorpe by 2.
Okay.
You can see what I'm trying to do here, can't you?
Yep. Berwick against Glasgow is the next one on Saturday in the Championship.
That's up to you, Chris.
Glasgow by 6.
Berwick by 4.
Glasgow by 2. And then in the National Development League on Sunday, it's Leicester against Oxford.
I'm going to say Leicester by 12.
Leicester by 18.
Leicester by 10.
Okay. On Monday night, it's Bellevue against Leicester.
That's up to you, Matt.
Bellevue by 10.
I'm going to just go Bellevue by 6.
Really like draw. Bellevue by 10.
Okay. And finally, Birmingham against Kings Lynn.
And Chris.
Kings Lynn by 4.
Really? Get out there. Birmingham by 8.
I'll go for Birmingham by 4.
Yeah.
Okay. So get your predictions posted up. Obviously, we'll take them off that.
Oh, is that it then? Okay. Oh, right.
Yep.
That is it, yeah. Do you remember when we first started doing this, it took us ages to get through all the fixtures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now how many fixtures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could have done that. 10.
Yeah.
I didn't need to count.
I bet you used your fingers as well, didn't you?
Yeah. Toes would have come out if it had got more than 10. Yeah.
Villa fans got more than
That's sort of... Really don't call me a Villa fan, please.
No.
Yeah. Sort of points to the state of Speedway at the moment, really.
Absolutely, yeah.
But, Simon Corbett says, who's guesting for Mujlek? Good question. Probably I would think Harris. He goes really well.
And he said, and you're in trouble again.
Yeah, misread car against Oxford. Apologies for that. Must have missed it.
So 11 matches. So red car versus Oxford. And we'll put that's going to be me in it. I would get red car.
Yeah.
Of course I would. I'm going to say red car by 8 as well.
I'll say red car by 10.
Red car by 12.
Okie dokie.
Brian Buck. Central Television's coverage of Birmingham has been non-existent all season. Always has been, to be fair. I have emailed them a total of 9 times since the end of April and have not had a single reply or acknowledgement. Well, that's bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about the BBC? Is there anything you can't
BBC have put stuff on.
I know
Not a lot, but
WM have done it.
BBC have always been
yeah.
very good friends of Speedway, haven't they? They do a lot of
I think-
coverage for Speedway. So.
I wonder what it's like up and down the country, with the regional TVs and so
Let
forth.
us know.
Let us know.
And
What's it like?
Before we disappear in 10 minutes, Craig Smith's the same on other local news channels. Only time Granada shows something if there's a playoff final or probably Speedway of Nations.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the possibility of doing a live show,
Yeah.
and we sort of want people's input on this, don't we? First of all, would you be up for it? Would you come down? We don't know how much the tickets will cost yet because we haven't priced anything up yet, but it won't. It won't be prohibitive.
And also, who would you like us to try and
Who
book
would
as
you-
guests?
yeah,
Because
who
I don't
would-
think you just want to listen to us three blonkers, do you?
No, absolutely not. I don't want to listen to us three plunkers. So yeah, give us some ideas of who you would like for guests. You can put them on the shout box. You can email them us, and watch this space. And
Yeah.
we'll get back
And
to
just
you
let
on
you
that.
know, the first 2 venues that we have got are both in Birmingham, but
So how many people would be interested in coming down on what will probably be a Tuesday night again?
Yeah, I can't see why not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a Tuesday. Yeah.
We would love to do that. Would be quite
Yeah,
exciting.
good fun.
So, yeah,
Good fun. Yeah, maybe raise a bit of dosh for charity.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. maybe for the Speedway Riders Benevolent Fund.
That'd be a great shout. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Right.
Which gives us our first guest, of course. We'll get in touch with the Speedway Riders Benevolent Fund and get somebody from them on. So, okay.
Yeah.
Right, there's been a lot of noise in the last few days about Peterborough. Of course, there's a big campaign to try and get Peterborough back into the showground. I think it's going to be either the showground or nothing. This has sort of come to light because there was a video that appeared on social media a couple of weeks ago of the CEO of the group that's trying to develop Speedway. I trying to develop what was the Peterborough's track at the showground, and obviously I know it's upset a few people because I think the guy's name's Ashley Butterfield was quite belittling and patronising towards Speedway fans. I think he basically said that they were selfish for trying to stop the development.
Well,
But the BSBA and the Speedway Control Bureau have actually lodged an application, which is I've got in front of me. It's very, very long, so I'll sort of pick out the
pertinent bits.
The pertinent bits. So, right, number one, attention is drawn to the final paragraph of page 11, which states anecdotal evidence from British Speedway, which we would respectfully suggest should ring an immediate alarm bell. There is no evidence whatsoever, either on our own website or elsewhere, to suggest that the vast majority of a Speedway crowd is not made up of the supporters of the home team. There is an attempt to suggest that because a rally in November 2022 attracted around 350 supporters, it was quite reflective of the Peterborough fan base, which is a ludicrous position to take. Rather than quote anecdotal evidence, we would ask why the authors of this report have not communicated with ourselves to establish the true position. They have provided no evidence to back up their claims as to the average attendance at the East of England Arena, which in fact has been substantially higher than 1,000 in recent seasons. And the reference to a declining attendance in autumn is also a work of fiction, given that the meetings which are staged in autumn tend to be important playoff fixtures. Hence, in autumn 2021, when Peterborough clinched the league title, attendance were in fact at their highest level in years.
Okay, so, I mean, first of all, it's a breath of fresh air to hear the BSPL coming out and doing something like that, because I've never done anything like that before that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Why have they not done something like that for Coventry, by the way? We should put that out there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean...
There's other bits as well. The closures of Wolverhampton and Swindon are referred to, which are also matters which we would take issue with. The argument of Speedway shall reach in the Greyhound track at Wolverhampton was only made some time after the closure notice had been given, in response to a very public backlash. Speedway and Greyhound racing do exist in the same stadium elsewhere in the country at venues such as Birmingham and Sheffield, and Tyne simply took a decision which was hugely unpopular locally. Swindon Speedway was also not in an unviable financial position, and we would be happy to discuss the very specific circumstances of that club and that venue, should you wish to take the matter further. Across pages 13 and 14, Collison and Associates Limited make reference to the argument that Speedway at Peterborough is unnecessary due to the alternative provision available at Kings Lynn and Leicester. We say this is totally false. There is no evidence that the closure of one club results in supporters of that team transferring their allegiances elsewhere. It is the equivalent of Manchester United being closed down on the basis that their supporters currently visit Liverpool, or on a lower level, Peterborough United being closed down with supporters instead being told to go and support Leicester, Northampton or Cambridge. The argument is a total non-starter and has been proven to be factually incorrect in the Coventry case. In conclusion, the narrative of this report, namely the assertion that Speedway is in terminal decline, and it is rather lazily copied and pasted from previous planning applications which have either not been determined, in the case of Arena Essex, or have been accepted by an inquiry inspector to be totally untrue, which was the case of Coventry. We would take issue with the recent media comments made by Mr. Butterfield, I should say, of AEPG, which are intended to create the impression that the Speedway at the showground was never viable, and the objection to his plans are from a small cohort of people, remarkably describing them as selfish. He appears upset that thousands of objections are delaying his bid to get spades into the ground and houses built. We would suggest that a support which operated for 53 years, despite Mr. Butterfield incredibly stating that its home was never here, was quite clearly viable for all concerned, and perhaps the only time it did not become viable for the owners of the site was when they had removed all other events from the venue. One way in which the AEPG could ensure their scheme was compliant with the National Planning Policy Framework would be to provide an alternative venue in the Peterborough area for the sport, which they have evicted, or indeed to modify their own plans to support its retention at the showground. However, as things stand, we believe there is no way this proposal should be accepted or realistically even taken to planning committee, while the report is so deficient and full of falsehoods about our sport. And that's come from Nicky Jameson and Neil Vatcher at the BSB office.
I mean, that's quite powerful, I
Yeah.
have to say.
I wonder whether Phil Morris has had some input in that as well, to be fair. So
I would imagine so. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he's CEO, so he'd have to approve anything that went out in the BSPR's name, wouldn't he? I would have thought.
yeah.
Is Mr. Butterworth related to Clark Osborne, says people?
Yes, that's a name that's appeared a few times, hasn't it? Certainly in the case of the Swindon Stadium, which we keep being told is nearly ready, but we're seeing no evidence that it's actually even been built.
Craig Smith says Peterborough have recruited somebody on the consortium who had a big input on the Coventry inquiry, seems to know all the legal wranglings around planning permission, etc., and is only good for them, surely. I would think so.
Okay, gentlemen, your rider of the week from the meetings or that you've seen this week.
So I've said Max Frick.
Yankovic,
Oh,
I thought was very impressive.
So have we got a draw going
I've
on?
got a split, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Still time. Still
So,
time.
yeah, so get your ideas in for that.
Yeah, you got 3 minutes.
And I've just had a really good idea for our live show. If I want to put it out there and see if people.
No, you're not doing it naked.
No.
The worrying thing is I was thinking the same thing. So.
Oh no, I'm not going to get that out of my brain now.
We should get the consortiums from the Peterborough and Coventry and anybody else that's trying to bring their Speedway back and make it about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
I
we
think
should
that's
do.
a great idea, yeah.
Just a thought.
Some of them might be a bit limited in what they can say, obviously for legal reasons, but
Yeah. Rich Thomas says Rider of the Week Magic.
yep.
And Jeff
has
Daniels
gone for
said
Max
Frick.
Frick was superb, but I think Yankovic for me, he'd never seen the track before last night, as far as I'm aware, and was very, very to get straight into it straight away and was superb.
Well, he did have a bit of a luck in the first running because it got called back. But
Yeah.
So I believe Magic is in the lead then. Is that right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many has Magic votes?
3, I think.
Okay, he's in the lead then because
Yeah,
Frick
okay.
got 2.
Okay.
Okay, that I'm aware of.
Let's have a look.
Unless, yeah.
No, nobody on YouTube.
Okay, well, it's been a great show once again. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And let us know what you think of that idea for the live show. We'll bring in the people from the different... Well, it's an idea at the moment, but if you think it's a good idea, we will have a look at it and
Yeah, of
see.
course, yeah.
Obviously, as you mentioned, there might be things that people can and can't say,
Yeah.
but we'll certainly have a look at it. Okie dokie, that's the end of the show. We will see you in a fortnight's time when hopefully I will be talking about a Birmingham win and a maximum by Mr. Frederick Lindgren. See you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. What's the news today? Have a drink, have your say. All opinions here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern.
There we go.
Pete Clark said he's up for a live show.
Yeah.